This session, or for this tutorial on structured data on the commons for GLAM institutions, is Giovanna Fontenelle. She's from Sao Paulo. She's a journalist and historian. She currently acts as a program officer for GLAM and culture at the Wikimedia Foundation. She has been working with GLAM initiatives and structured data for a while, and is very interested also in knowledge equity. So structured commons, for those who have been around for a while in the Wikimedia movement, it's something we've waited for a long time. Then it has arrived like at the technical level, and now it's kind of being implemented step by step on a practical level. And I guess Giovanna will kind of give us some insights in that, and probably also give some cues how heritage institutions could make use of structured commons now or in the future. So Giovanna, welcome. The floor is yours. And maybe also a short welcome to all our participants. Don't be shy. If you have questions, you can use the chat to ask questions at any moment during the presentation or during the webinar. So it's also meant to be something interactive. Giovanna also mentioned that she'd be happy also to get your questions.
Yes.
So now the floor is yours, Giovanna.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm very happy for being here presenting about this topic that I like so much. As Beat was saying, I am, a journalist, I'm a historian, but I'm also a Wikimedian for a few years now. And this is my work, of course, but as a volunteer, I have been working for a long time. And I am quite in love with this ecosystem, this environment. So thank you for being here. I will present about your data on commons today, and I hope that you like the presentation. And I actually have questions, because I think this is a good sign that things are being understood. And please, if you can present yourself on the chat, I think it would be very nice, so I can know who is here and maybe interact later. So I will share my screen. Let's see if I can do this right. Yes, I think so. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
And the tabs up here? Yes? Okay, great. Let me just... Yes. Just fixing the screen for me. So as I was saying, today I will be presenting this session, share data on commons for GLAM institutions. I am, this is a session that is meant to be a presentation and a tutorial for GLAM institutions, for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, heritage and cultural institutions overall. I am currently the program officer for the GLAM culture team at the Wikimedia Foundation. So we are working with this project for a few years now. I was not part of it while it was being developed. It was developed from 2017 to 2019. And then now, after the development, the team that developed the project, this Data on Commons project, kind of left it to the community to take care of it, and for the GLAM institutions to make part of it. And it's going. We are going to be discovering some points here in this presentation on why it is still developing in this process. And I just wanted to do a few... I think there is someone talking. Sorry. And I just wanted to do some disclaimers before I start my presentation. First of all, that I'm, of course, representing my team, the foundation, and our team does various different things. We have partnerships with GLAM institutions. But we also have technical capabilities as working with Data on Commons, Data across Wikimedia overall. And we also are very interested in knowledge equity and, of course, bringing heritage and cultural institutions that are not only from the global north. I am from Brazil, so I'm very, used to work in this topic. And I think it's very important. And I hope that today we have a few people that are not just from the global north, that we can, of course, present this to other, for people in other environments, other cultures as well. Another disclaimer that I would like to do is that this presentation will, of course, talk about short data and Wikimedia Commons, which is a media platform for the Wikimedia projects. But I will not be explaining how short data works and not how Wikidata works as well, because this would take us a very long time. And if you are not completely comfortable with that, I can later maybe have a few words with you and explain a little bit. But basically, so we can be at the same page here, Wikidata is the database for the Wikimedia project, the structured database for the Wikimedia projects. And another disclaimer that I would like to do is that this project, the Short Data on Commons project, is a project that mixes short data and media files. So if your institution, your library does not deal with media files and just with data, that's okay, because I think this presentation will be interesting for you to learn a little bit more how to interact with media files. And I think it will give you a very good perspective on accessibility and how you can translate content and other specific things. And so please stick with it, even though you don't have media files, okay? And yes, those were my disclaimers. Let's just go to the presentation. Here, I wanted to share a quick video about the Short Data on Commons project that I think it's very good for us to be on the same page. Please let me know if the audio is not working. I will also put some captions, so it's also available, okay? That's cool. Can you hear the sound?
We can hear some music, I think.
Okay, yes.
But it's not very loud, Giovanna.
Let me just...
Commons, a sister project of Wikipedia.
It's better now.
Wikimedia Commons is a media repository with tens of millions of files. A lot of these are made and collected by Wikimedia volunteers. Wikimedians around the world also partner with galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. Many files are contributed through these partnerships. Just like on Wikipedia, the files on Commons are free to be reused by anyone. You often see them as illustrations on various websites. Now, how do you make more than 50 million free files useful for as many people as possible? How do you make sure that anyone in the world can find an image they need, no matter which language they speak? The answer is structured data on Commons. Structured data is information about a file that is easy to understand by humans, but is also machine readable, easy to understand and process by computers. This is where Wikidata comes into play, Wikimedia's free knowledge base. It contains data items or entities about almost anything in the world. Each file on Wikimedia Commons can now be described with entities from Wikidata. Unique identifiers help to distinguish different things, even if they have the same name. This image shows a kiwi, and you point it to the Wikidata entry for the kiwi fruit. This kiwi is not a New Zealander and not a flightless bird. All Wikidata entities are multilingual, so it doesn't matter in which language you search. These entities are also linked data. Wikidata describes relationships between things in the world. So you will be able to find photos of foods named after women and of different kinds of cabbage rolls from cuisines around the world. Concepts from Wikidata are also linked to other databases. For instance, the Library of Congress, iNaturalist, and the Internet Movie Database. Many of these databases link back to Wikidata as well. Structured data is already part of Twitter bots, museum timelines, and tagging games. As a software developer, you can freely take this machine-readable, multilingual, and linked data and use it in all kinds of applications. And most of all, anyone in the world can now search for files on Wikimedia Commons in their own language. Help by contributing free files and structured data to Wikimedia Commons yourself to make more files more useful to more people and more machines.
So this video is very interesting, I guess, because it gives an overall, presentation of what is Shredded on Commons, and how it interacts with Wikidata. But of course, that we have much more to explore on it, and it is very tricky to still explain what it is to folks, especially in the case today for connected to GLAM and cultural institutions. So that's why my presentation today, because I expect to facilitate this interaction with Shredded Data on Commons for you. Sorry. Yes. But as the video showed, Shredded Data on Commons is a shared data insertion system for Wikimedia Commons, and it is a multilingual information that is understood by not only humans, but also for machines. Back then, when shared data on Commons was not a thing, Wikimedia Commons was most accompanied by plain text and descriptions and categories, and they were usually only available in one language, that it was English, of course, and they were not very machine readable. Of course, that we had a few connections with Wikidata already in a few templates, specific templates, but it was just part of it, very small part of it, and it was not very well translatable at the time. And so strict data metadata allows the files to be accessible in a robust, consistent, and structured and linked format. And that format allows software to be understood on a large scale and to connect to other databases on the internet as well, and putting them in a broader linked context. And as being more granular is easier to translate than unstructured data. And how that works exactly. So basically, there are two forms to interact with Shredded Data on Commons for the overall user of Wikimedia projects, Wikimedia Commons. Basically, is adding multilingual captions to files, to media files, or inserting Wikidata information into media files on Commons, or linked open data for media files. So here I have at the bottom just a small bar in which I show you the different aspects of it. So the first, multilingual captions is the file information, and the second tab is the tab that is essentially structured. And I will just show you exactly what that is in a specific file. But before that, I have here an image for 12 sugar cubes. And it's just a simple image. You don't, it is an image that you can use for illustrating, a Wikipedia page for sugar, or for cubes maybe, or, for pictures of, food. you can choose a few specific topics. It's not a very, amazing image, even though it has a very high quality. But even though it's a simple image, when you go to Commons, to its file page, that specific image has captions in more than 25 languages. So this is the very amazing aspect of shared data on Commons, because it opens up a very large possibilities with languages. And even though we have like more than 300 languages on Wikimedia projects right now, having 25 languages at this picture is a lot already. And this was, as I was saying, the first step of shared data, the file captions. And then we have a second tab. Here I have the example of Mona Lisa and some of the information available that is structured in a structured format on the Mona Lisa file page on the Wikimedia Commons. So we see here, sorry that I have to change to move my screen here a little bit. We see that there is a session, a field, a part about what is depicted on that image. So we have a person depicted in Mona Lisa as a statement, and then a few other statements about that specific item, that specific person, her hair color, her eye color, the specific position that she is in the image. We also have below it the field in which we see the creator, and we see that it's possible to add a few other statements as well. And then I'm sorry, still in the person depicted in Mona Lisa, we see that it's marked as preeminent, as like the first and most important thing in that image. And then we can also edit these items here and also add some qualifiers. So there's a lot of information that is that we can put it in there, basically. And here we have a GIF in which you can see how to add that information. So we have here an image of a temple, the Atashgat temple. I hope that I'm saying that right. And here it shows that you can basically put the information about what is depicted on the image, which is the temple, and then mark that specific depiction as prominent. And I will explain later why this is so important to mark as prominent as well. And another especially interesting thing is also the file caption here, in which you can put in a few different languages. So we have here on the GIF as English and as Netherlands. But why this is so interesting, why this is important and what it does. Basically, this what I explained until now, it improves, of course, accessibility, as allows multilingual, statements, and allows people to easily translate content and provide labels in over 300 languages. As I was saying, MediaWiki right now works in more than 300 languages. It also enhances, improves accessibility, especially the file captions part, in which you can provide the text as alternative text, as alt text for blind people, for example, and description and other information that makes the content more accessible for users with specific needs. But it also makes the content more findable and more used across Wikimedia project, because it allows people to easily find content through better descriptions of this content, and of course in other language, so that also improves the searchability and findability. But it also makes the content and the image more easier to find on Wikimedia projects and to be used on Wikimedia projects. And of course, as everyone here knows, Wikipedia also It is the content that goes into search engines as well. So it also improves the searchability of those files on the internet overall.
Giovanna, could I just
yes.
interrupt you for 1 second? There's a question that came up in the chat. They're asking you to clarify the difference between a caption and a description.
Okay, so the caption, let me just maybe go back here. Yes, here, yes. So the caption is on the same part of the, the image, the tab that you open. It is just like a fast description of that image. It has the same size of an alternative text, so 122 characters at most. So what you are seeing, if you can, of course, if you are not a blind person with other difficulties as well, it is the part in which you describe what you are seeing, what is the most important about that images. And the description, usually at the most lower part of the image file on Commons, it is more it's more detailed. So you can have a description with a historical, for example, a historical background, or even saying from which creator that was, from which institution, and it's a more complete kind of description. This caption is only for the things that you are seeing, and it is more prominent in the image. Or even, if it's a video, on the video, or depends on the kind of format of the media file.
But Giovanna, is the description actually accessible through the Sparkle endpoint? Is it part of structured commons or not? Not really, right?
No, not really. Yeah. So that's why it's important to act on the file caption right now, because, and the way I will explain a little bit better this in my presentation, but basically to have the file more searchable, more findable across Wikimedia's projects, it is important for you to actually add file captions and the issue data in the other tab for it to be more findable. There is a hang on the way that the information is now searched and made available on Commons and the other Wikimedia projects, basically.
Yeah, so what you see in summary, that's legacy. So that's the stuff that was around before structured commons, and now we're trying to describe the various files in a structured manner.
Yes, exactly. So yes, sorry. It also improves the quality of information because it makes it more translatable and makes it multilingual. So it has a better quality, and it is going to be more used across Wikimedia and across the internet overall as well. That's the basically thing about, especially about this project, about this initiative. It is basically to make Commons more accessible to not only English speakers, basically.
Giovanna, there's also a question about Pattypan. Are you going to cover it, like the tools later?
I will cover a few tools, but I will not be covering Pattypan. So if someone
So the question was, is there a way to add captions and structured data when doing uploads with Pattypan?
As far as I know, it is not developed yet. I'm not sure if it will be developed because Pattypan is not developed by the Short Data team at the foundation. It's another tool, and I will talk about tools in a little bit. But there is another plan to actually have a tool that will have the different parts of the upload process in just one place. It's going to be OpenRefiner. A few people already know about this in the community. So we'll have the part about the upload of the media file, and then the connection with Wikidata, and then the connection with Short Data on Commons all at once. So we don't have to be, changing tools all the time, and that complicates the entire process. And it is not very easy for, new folks that are trying to understand how this works. So it will simplify things.
It's also in the process of being developed right now.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not ready yet.
Yes. I have a specific slide for that. But if you have the person who asked this has specific questions about PettyPen that you want to know, I can talk to you a little bit later as well at the end of the presentation. Okay. So here is just a slide with it is the stored data from the sugar cubes image, so you can see how that automatically gets translated to other languages. So just an interesting GIF. But of course, I think the main question is why this is important for GLAMs, what it does for GLAMs. So stored data on Commons benefits cultural heritage data. Files can be described with structured, machine-readable, and multilingual metadata. They have structured copyright and attribution information and rich APIs. And the Wikimedia platforms are also filled with information that comes from the GLAM institutions, and every heritage institution in the world has a collection and knowledge waiting to be shared. And some of that information can be used in, of course, an encyclopedical way, on a text-based way, in the way that Commons used to be. But some of it are also available and fits quite well in the structured format. And one of the ways to share this structured knowledge is through the information available within the items the institutions already have and that are already created and fixed, and in some cases already available in their databases. And these items, they have information that can easily fit structured data on Commons ecosystem, not only on Commons, but also on Wikidata, of course. So you just have to kind of understand what is the specifics of your institutions, what your institution needs and wants. If there is images and media files, documents on your institution, and you want to share them on Commons, you want them to be used on Wikipedia, then basically this is a very interesting pathway for you. There is also the possibility of just using Wikidata, and that's okay, that's fine. But you need also to be aware of what Wikidata offers, which is amazing. Of course, it presents you with an entire world of visualizations, analytics, stats, and new ways to interact and understand how you can use your data, and you can see your data and find content gaps. But if you have media files and you are also interested in all of that Wikidata has to offer, with the stored data on Commons is also a very good possibility. Here are some of the specific things that stored data on Commons can do for GLAMs. They can make the content more translatable, more accessible, more machine readable, more connected, and more findable and usable. And the Wikimedia platforms, I know that I already said a lot about this, but it is important to highlight that this is even more important and even more interesting for GLAMs than just for the overall Commons user and the Commons, the Wikimedia user that is, of course, interacting with the SDC, the stored data on Commons project. Right now, we have also the fact that we have on Commons a new media search that we say, a new search bar, in which the media, it's more prominent, it's more important, and not only the information that used to be on the Commons description. It is made to have more, the image to be more findable and more useful. That is happening through a project that is called Stored Data Across Wikimedia. So, so it gets that image, those images to be more searched on Commons and more used across Wikimedia projects. I just want to go real quickly to some of the details from these important things that the SDC project does for GLAMs. So even the translatable kind of aspect of it, of course, that already said that we have more than 300 languages, but I would like to highlight how this is important for the files to be more widely used and improve the reach, because this is one of the main things about GLAMs on the Wikimedia ecosystem, that they usually share a lot of the content, but that content sometimes does not get translatable, does not get used. And having this possibility to be translated, it will improve almost automatically the amount of use that those files are going to have. It will also be more accessible for people with disabilities and expand the access for people with visual impairment who wish to access the content available on Wikimedia. And this is especially important for GLAMs, I believe, because this is one of the points that is connected more to the overall thinking of the GLAM institutions, that they want to be more, accessible overall in the internet. And they usually have a set of goals that they want to reach, and they want to make part of their, local kind of community to enhance their content to be more available for their folks. And this is a way to improve that aspect, to make it more part of the goals of the institutions themselves as well, and not even doing that specifically in their website, but also in an ecosystem that is more connected to other GLAM institutions and to even more people around the world. The fact that it's machine readable is also important because once it is extracted, therefore it is readable by machines, and it is part of the digital catalog standards, and it is more accessible for statistics, analytics, and different visualizations such as graphs, tables, queries. And as I was saying before, it also facilitates research and even identifying content gaps. It's also important because it facilitates the connectivity in the information convergence, and items get with their media and metadata from different countries and creators, movements, and periods, they all become more interconnected in just one place. And it is also important because it's the findability of the project supports a better system across Wikimedia projects. And as I was saying before as well, the media search is very important in this aspect, because it will have more people finding those images on Commons and consequently on Wikipedia, and those images were going to be more useful and more usable on Wikipedia and more visible in the open knowledge ecosystem. So if one of your goals is to have your media files more seen and more used across Wikimedia and across the internet, this is a very interesting project. So how to contribute? One of the ways, the easier way, is to upload a new free license files to Wikimedia Commons, and in this process, adding multilingual file captions and depict statements. This is the most basic of this entire process. Another possibility is to add or enhance the short data to already existing files on Commons. This is basically what the main user who is on Wikimedia Commons does. Right now, if you upload a new image to the platform, at the final stage of that upload process, it asks you to add some short data on Commons metadata. This has been happening for a few years now. But it is also very interesting to say that this is happening because some of the folks here, sometimes connected to GLAM institutions, they do their uploads through some different tools like PetScan, as we were talking about. So sometimes they don't know that this is already happening in the main way that people upload images and media files to Commons. The Wikimedia community, one of the ways that they can get involved in this process is providing feedback about the project, is helping others, is adding data statements to files, is translating content, and helping to decide how to model certain metadata. For GLAM institutions, representatives for those GLAM and cultural institutions, one of the ways is to share the content, is to provide feedback about the project and the content that is being made available. And also most important, and that's why it appears on both options here, helping with modeling issues and helping how to model the metadata, but also, because I forgot when I was reading, making use of the tools and helping us understand what is the pain points around using those tools and how we can develop those new tools that that we have in the planning right now. Here I have a workflow for data and media partnership with Wikidata and Wikimedia Commons, and especially with Estermann Commons. Some of you may already seen this workflow in the past. It shows the entire process of what we call the GLAM Wiki ecosystem and GLAM Wiki partnerships, content partnerships. It usually begins with first negotiations, understanding, the partner's data and the partner's media files. And then we have a pre-upload process in which we clarify the copyright status, we prepare the data, we check what is already on the Wikimedia projects or not, and we reconcile that data to sometimes Wikidata and some, it is not always that the reconcile part happens. It depends a little bit on your institution and how the data is being shared, but we have that stage here. Afterwards, we have the upload process, and then which is sometimes the most easier part of the entire thing. And then we have a part about corrections, enrichment, and reuse of images. And I think, of course, that everything here is important and it connects to the Estermann Commons project. But I think me, as someone who is part of this project now, I think the most important thing about the Estermann Commons project that most institutions and content partners that we have is that they still don't understand the impact of these projects, of this specific project, and the way that their image and their metadata is going to be reused across Wikimedia. And that will have, of course, a very important impact in the way that their institution lives in the Wikimedia projects. And it is also important to the report, the stats part of that partnership. Here are some of the tools that we have considering that workflow and Estermann Commons. The colors here, of course, match this workflow here, okay? So we have our first stage in which we have here the pre-upload, okay? Oh. So we have right now, usually people deal with spreadsheets before they upload, kind of tidying up everything that, the metadata and the media files, everything that is connected, that should then upload it later to the Wikimedia platforms. Part of the community right now uses OpenRefiner with this specific stage in mind, but they also use OpenRefiner to the part of the reconciling the metadata to be, uploaded to Wikimedia platforms. But in a while, we'll have OpenRefiner not only for that, but also to connect with Wikidata and Commons through the SDC, the Wikimedia, the Estermann Commons project. After that, for ingestion of the data itself, the way that we work right now, we have PetScan for images, we have quick statements for data, and we have a few other options, like, for example, the PyWikibot. But of course, in a few months, when we have the OpenRefiner project working, we'll have that also covered by OpenRefiner. For analyzing, correcting, and enrichment of those metadata, we have, with Distributed Commons, the tools called ACDC, yes. Also SD and Image Annotator. For reuse and for reuse content in intra-wiki across Wikimedia and externally, we have the media search on Commons, as I was saying, the image suggestion, that is a kind of a new project that suggests image to be used on Wikipedia in several languages. And we also have, for report and measurement of the impact of that data, we have the Wikimedia Commons query service that is still on a beta version, but it's working and it is very interesting. And I will show a few examples of it in a few slides. So as I was saying, we have a few tools, and this is the part about the tools. We have the most useful ones that are most usable by the community right now are the ISA tool, the ACDC, the SDC, and the image annotator. And for batch upload tools, and I think this is the most important one for GLAM institutions, the batch upload tools, we have a way to do it that mixes a few tools. And I know this is not the best thing ever, as I was saying, because complicates the entire process. So we are trying to simplify that, having those, instead of using different tools, we are having OpenRefiner as just one. But the way it is now, we have a mix of quick statements, Mightyfield, or PetScan. And I will show you how to do that now. Oh, before that, I have here the difficult levels of working with those tools. Okay, so the easier one that I'm saying is the search data tab that you search for in the Wikimedia Commons bar, basically. You can search there for different files. I will teach you how to do that in a few slides. It is very easy. And then in a medium kind of level, we have the scripts that are on Commons, that it is the ACDC and the SDC or SD. And a little bit harder in that aspect, we have PetScan, PetScan, quick statements, image annotator, and the Mightyfield, and the Wikimedia Commons query service. I think the Wikimedia Commons query service could be in the expert part. I think that's, very difficult for me, someone who is, journalist and a historian in my background, but for some other folks that might be easier. So it varies a little bit. But on the expert part, we have the bots, basically the Pyrek and the API interface. There is very hard for some folks, and some very specific institutions make use of it. And I will explain them as well. So the ACDC tool, which has this amazing name, very funny. It is actually a tool that is called Add to Commons / descriptive claims. It works adding a collection of shared data statements to a set of files. So it does work a little bit with, you could say, a batch of items. That is not, sometimes I don't believe this is so useful for GLAMs, because usually for GLAMs, you have a very big set of files, not only a few, because it's a set of files, but not a lot of files. We don't have you can add hundreds at a time, you can add a few. And it needs to be installed. So we have to go to, when you are, of course, in your Wikimedia account, you go to Preferences, Gadgets, and then you select the Add to Commons / descriptive claims ACDC tool. And it becomes available on your Commons sidebar on the Tools section. Okay, so on the left side. And then it appears as it is here on the right side of my screen. You can select the files that you want to edit, and then add the depict statements and qualifiers and even other statements that you wish to add just at once.
Giovanna, how are you doing? Should we ask maybe the audience whether they have some questions? And we were also wondering whether we should take a 5-minute break. We're now at the middle of the session, but it depends a bit how much material you still want to cover.
Yes, I kind of have a few slides to go. I don't know if 5 minutes would be too much, maybe.
But in 5 minutes break would be too much or too long?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes.
And it looks like there's some comments in the chat that we should keep going if possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
that would be cool also to take questions. If somebody has questions, just ask them in the chat. I think it would make it a bit more fun to have it a bit more interactive as well.
Is there questions right now?
There's nothing that has come up yet, but this is
sometimes we have to ask people to ask questions. Yeah.
Sometimes we have to have those moments of silence, then people start to ask things. Exactly. But I would just I think I will continue here, and I think on the part about the tools, maybe some questions will appear because it's more complicated. So the ISA tool, I think it is probably the most interesting and cool of the tools that I will be talking about. It is one of the official pilot projects for Shared Data on Commons. It is a tool that actually received an award during one of the Wikimedia conferences, the Wikimedia Commons, I think 2019. And it is very interesting because it allows anyone to add shared data to files on Commons in an easy and a fun way. And it is a tool for enrichment and micro contributions. And it is useful for some GLAMs specifically because it adds the PIC statements and the multilingual captions to files, but also because, and especially because, it can create the GLAMs and other cultural institutions can create and organize small campaigns and competitions using this tool. I have here it open. Sorry, let me just put it on the home page. So this is the ISA tool. You can click here and explore some of the campaigns. And then when you click a campaign and you choose an image, as I did here, you can add the depict statements for that and some captions in different languages. I believe that you can change the language available here when you click here on your account in your preferences. But as I was trying to do this again last night when I was finishing up my preparation for this, I believe that they have a problem right now in which you can add more languages. But I believe that this is being fixed. But basically you can add information. You could, of course, add very general information about this image. For example, you can just say that this image depicts a chapel, and then you just write chapel here, and you could even write that in your language, so it appears as well in your language. But you could also be very specific and choose the specific chapel that is depicted on this image. I already searched for it, so I know that it is this chapel. And then you can choose that, and it will be added here. And you can, in this flag here, mark this as prominent in this image, okay? And this is also important because once you mark this as prominent when you use the Wikimedia Commons search bar. It will give preferences to this image when you are searching for this chapel, for example. And that goes to other specific topics as well. If you mark that topic in the image with the prominent feature, then it will be ranked higher and it will show first on the search. And also on the Wikipedia languages that already use the suggestion image project as well. We also have the image annotator tool, which is also very cool. I really like this tool because it's a tool that runs image annotation campaigns on Wikimedia Commons and adds depicts statements and with the relative position within image qualifier. So it's very cool if you want to, actually deal with media and media files and images, because you can very much interact with the image and themselves and trying to understand not only what you are seeing, but where you are seeing that in the image and, mark the position. It is based on another tool, the Wikidata image position tool, which is also very nice. And we also have the SDC tool, which is more of a simple kind of tool that uses a script that allows adding a limit number of data statements to a file in a specific Commons category. So when you install that in your account, on a Wikimedia account, then when you are in a category, you can see, as some of you may know if you use Commons a little bit more and have something called catalog in your profile, it will appear exactly like the catalog in the lower part of your screen, and then you click on that and just interact with the tool, adding shared data on Commons information to it. And then we have here finally our slide about OpenRefine. As I was saying a lot, currently there is no tool that does batch uploads to image to Wikimedia Commons from the beginning to end, that allows shared data on Commons to be added at the same time. That's why OpenRefiner will be so important. It is already a tool that most of the Wikimedia ecosystem community knows a lot, and it is also a tool that librarians and the GLAM community knows a lot as well. So I think that will be very useful for our community overall. And we had a proposal that it was approved and it will go to mid-2022. So we expect to have this tool working in a few months. And I left the link there for someone who wants to read more about this project, okay? But basically it will fix some of the current upload process and will help GLAMWiki projects to do their upload batches to Wikimedia Commons and Wikidata. It will allow that integration, and as they were saying in their proposal, there is no reliable, flexible and powerful tool yet to add and modify extra data to very large bits of files to Wikimedia Commons. So that's the main thing about this project. And I believe it will change the way that we are doing the uploads right now to Wikimedia. But one alternative to inserting shared data on Commons into media files already is quick statements. And there is a tricky way that we discovered a few months after after the development of the SDC project ended. And quick statements, as probably most of you know, it's a Wikidata tool. It works in a spreadsheet kind of test editor and standard code like Lua template, and add and remove statements, labels, descriptions, size, properties, lexemes, everything that is connected to Wikidata. But there is a very kind of hiding aspect to it that you can use for SDC. basically what you have to do is with the help of Mightyfield or PetScan, there are two different tools. You can have the media ID for each file that you want to add data on Commons metadata. And then you get those MIDs, those media IDs. And instead of using the key numbers, the keys, as some of you say, you use the media IDs. And when you are uploading, you just, instead of create a new comment batch for Wikidata, you put comments. And this, of course, that I'm explaining in this way, but if you go to the Data on Commons portal and the part about tools and GLAMs, you can have this specific thing very well explained to you as well. Here on this slide, I basically say a little bit about PetScan and Mightyfield. Mightyfield is a tool that allows the user to convert Commons files titles to media IDs. And the media IDs, they usually have one letter M followed by 8 numbers, okay? Usually you can find that very easily if you are working with just one file. It is on the bar side of the Commons page. You can find the number there. But if you are trying to work with more than just one file, then this is easier because it goes at once with a lot of files. And the Mightyfield, it converts Commons files, page titles to media IDs as well. So here we have an example of a PetScan search for the category Department of American Decorative Arts from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Sorry if I so you can, when you are searching for it, you select Commons and the project Wikimedia, and then you put this in the same way that it shows here. And then on the page properties tab, you just choose file, and it will give you all the media files, the media IDs for those files in that specific category at once. And then you can see the files here as well. And you can download this and use that number to do the upload to quick statements as well. Here again, sorry, I was showing the wrong. Yes. So here are the files again. We also have the possibility of using PyWikBots, but this is sometimes very difficult for a few folks. Some find it complicated. It's a framework that offers layers for large-scale batch operations, and usually are bots run by users to do those batch uploads. There is no Data on Commons support for it right now. We have a ticket open on a ticket open to work with this, to properly implement data access on Commons in PyWikBot. But we also have, because we don't have support for that right now, there is a link here with a blog post about writing data on Commons with Python, if you are interested in that. There is a link for that blog post. But there are some bots doing this operation, like the bot Munch2 and some other bots here that I will not try to say their names out loud because I will fail. But we also have some GLAMbots doing this work, as for example, Alicia from Wikimedia Sweden bot that does batch uploads with PyWikBot from some GLAM institutions from Sweden. We also have the Metropolitan Museum of Art bot, the Geographic bot, and the Digital Public Library of America bot. They are in this moment doing batch uploads to Wikimedia Commons using Data on Commons data.
Giovanna, could I interrupt you for just a second? It looks like you're moving out of the tools section, and there's a few questions that have come up in the chat. Is this a good time to address those?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So first question, what's the guidance around using or not using the flag when you're creating structured statements? Should it be something that's very concrete? For example, the Wikidata entity for chapel versus just a chapel.
So the guidelines to these specific questions, this specific question is quite open right now because it was dependent a little bit on the development of the Data Across Wikimedia project and the Media Search project, because they were trying to understand what would work best for the searchability of those files. If it would be a very specific term or a very general term, what would be best for search and for use of those content. And they, at first they were saying that more general would be best because it would then appear in more general topics. But then right now they are saying, oh, it's okay if you want to use general topics, but it's also good if you choose a very specific one, because the specific term, it will be also connected to the more general one. So for example, the chapel image that I showed, if you choose the specific item for that specific chapel, it will also have a statement saying that the chapel is a chapel. So it's okay if you use that specific item as well.
Perfect. I think that covers it. There's also a question, is there any training on the dashboard ed about these tools?
As far as I know, there isn't, but we have a lot of writing documentation about it. And depending on the tool, we have some live video tutorials about it. If you are thinking about any specific tool that you want to learn more, let me know and I will share the link on the chat as well. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And there's also a request that you might think about sharing your slides for those that joined late. So
yes,
thanks.
I will. I actually not sure if that's possible, but I will share on
We can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then everyone can have access to it. I will probably share on Commons as well. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, please continue. I think we're good.
Okay. So one of the most important phases of the GLAM Wiki partnership, it is the reuse of the content. And until now, I would consider that this part was sometimes very often forget by the GLAMs and by us as well from the Wikimedia ecosystem, because we were very preoccupied in sharing the content, but not actually using that content. And so, for example, we have one of the most active GLAM partnerships on Wiki. It is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we have some stats around this. And they said that they uploaded more than 370,000 files just in 2017. And between January and April 2021, with those set of images, those 1,000 images, they got 94 million views on Wikimedia, which is a lot, especially comparing to their one website. But at the same time, if you see how many images from that batch were actually used on Wikimedia, you'll be surprised, because it's only 6% of those images. So 94 million views are from 6% of the images that they made available, because only 6% is being used. So how to actually use more of those images across Wikimedia? Because then if you use, imagine if you have already 94 million views only using 6%, imagine if you use 50% of those images. So this is what we are expecting to improve with Shared Data on Commons, to get those contents more useful, more searchable, more findable across Wikimedia. And to do that, I was saying this right now, basically, when they asked about the specific and general aspect of it, but basically you have to use inserting metadata as depicts and digital representation of, visually digital representation of when you have a specific item that is very known. So for example, Mona Lisa, you have the digital representation of Mona Lisa, for example. This is not the case for every file, but this is also a very important property to use if you are thinking about that. But there is also the descriptive title, file captions in multiple languages, the detailed descriptions and relevant categories. So you have kind of a rank to that. So it depends on the metadata that you have, of course, but if you can provide the picked statements, digital representation of, those are the main ones that it will be very useful to make the content more reused and more findable as well. Especially if you want to use and be part of the image suggestions projects that is going on Wikipedia right now. But there is some tools for measuring and visualizing the impact. For example, the Wikimedia Commons query service, the two common searches, the media search that is new, and the previous one just called search. And also the outreach dashboard. I will not go into the outreach dashboard right now because it's not specific for Shredder Commons. It works overall, and it does not need something different for Shredder Commons to work, okay? But the other two need. So the common search, we have the media search and the search, and it is the same thing for both of them. You just need to, choose which one you want to use. The media search is more connected to images themselves. And you have to use this specific code here that I will not try to say out loud because I will fail again. The one here in italic. And then followed by the properties and the key IDs that you want to search. And it will work based on the start data available on Wikidata for Commons files. So if you are looking for a specific search and an image does not have Shredder Commons, then it will not appear in this search. So it's important that you have the Shredder Commons available for the files. So for example, if you want to look for the digital all the images that have the property digital representation of connected to the painting, the kiss, then you have to search for this specific search here at the bottom. And then these are some of the results that it will appear from this search. So this is the media search, right? And this is the previous search as well. And then you can see that there are some different representations of this painting in different formats and different qualities as well. The media search can also search for shared data on common statements in different categories. For that, you just have to use this code in category, followed by the name of the category between underlines in each space. So for example, if you want to search the property depicts, which is P180, on the category images from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, you have to search like this in blue here at the bottom. And right now it will show you more than 54 results like this. So all of these images right now in this specific category you are using right now some depict statement. I'm not showing any specific statement, but if you want to, you could use this star and add the qualifier specifically that you want to search for that. Some specific things, like for example, a cat. You can then search for the key number of a cat, and it will show you if there is any painting, any file depicting a cat in this specific metropolitan category. And finally, the Commons Query Service that is also based in the Wikidata query service, but is still in a beta version, so it's not always up to date. So if you are planning to do an event with it, you should plan in advance, because it will not show you the updates right like in the next day. So you have to upload it a few days before if you are using in an event or something like that. So here we have an example of a query in which we are asking for images depicting Van Gogh works. So we would use painting files with the creator, the property for creator P170 set to Vincent van Gogh and his key number. And those would be the results, part of the results. There would be a lot of results in this case. But we could also do a different search, for example, depictions of bridges and a map of some of the image tags with depicts bridges on the Wikimedia Commons, there's data on Commons. And we would see here that we have a lot of bridges in Europe, of course. And so just to finish, because I need to finish real quickly here, I think, we have some examples. So the Metropolitan Museum of Art, they usually are doing their uploads to the data on Commons using PetScan and quick statements, as I was explaining previously, using the picked statements, creator, and inventory number for that. They have uploaded 43,000 files using this option. They also have a Metbot working with Python, and with that they upload the Met object ID and collection, and that would have, at the last time that I talked to them, more than 140,000 files. But I think this number was already more than that. So they are enhancing the numbers of files being used across Wikimedia and improving that stats that I was saying before of only 6% of images being used. And they are using a determination method to know from where the depict statements came. So when it is from the institutions themselves, they want to know. So they are using this tag, Metropolitan Museum of Art tagging initiative, but we are having conversations of actually also having references used on data on Commons, as well as we have on Wikidata, as we have on Wikipedia, which is very important, and it will probably get done, I hope. We also have the Digital Public Library of America, which is the largest single contributor to Commons and the biggest GLAM contributor right now. And they have a problem because they can't really use Wikidata because most of their files are not relevant enough to be on the platform. And they would very much like to join the shared data ecosystem, and they were not finding a way to do that. And they actually discovered that using SDC, shared data on Commons, they could finally embark in this environment. And they have a proposal approved to do this, to add 2 million edits to shared data and make metadata updates. And they want to improve the DPLA digital asset pipeline by implementing shared data on Commons, continuous data synchronization, improved analytics for partners, and experimentation with SDC-based image citation solutions. And they have right now a discussion about the proper shared data on Commons modeling to be used on the PLA's files. So as you know, I expect that we have a lot of librarians right now here, and they are very interested in modeling discussions. Then you can please go there and give it a read and leave your opinion. I left the link here for the discussion. And they also have the DPLA bot to add and update SDC statements and image metadata to sync with the data sources as well. We have also a project maintained by the National Library of Finland called FINA. It uploads and edits by the use ZAC and FINA upload bots, and they add statements as file captions in different languages, inceptions, source of file, depicts, creator location, coordinates, and this is for more than 16,000 files. And there is also this project by Punjabi Quizy, which was one of the pilot projects for SDC. And it's a very interesting one because it digitalized Punjabi's books in this Quizy genre. And it is very interesting because it was a reuse of data between various Wikimedia projects from beginning to end. So Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons, Wikisource, and improved the workflow for contribution in this project and showed how we could connect all of them at once. We also have here the link if you want to know more. There is also a possibility of doing round tripping with data. It's still kind of in not final. I mean, this project is finalized, but they reached a point in which they understood that the search could not go forward if we didn't have a better tool system to actually improve and connect SDC to even the Wikimedia projects. Imagine to bring the data back for the institutions. But it was a very interesting project. And if you want to know more about the results as well, we have here the link. And I don't think we have time for this anymore, but I was also planning to leave these links here. So if the folks here in this session would like to edit and maybe put their hands on a little bit with shared data, they could access those links here and maybe participate a little bit. As I was saying, the ISA tool, the ACDC, the SDC image annotator. And if you are more interested in contributing with modeling discussions, you could help with the modeling discussions that are going on right now in the modeling page. Here are the link for the page and for the talk page and the properties table as well. And there are conversations around author, copyright, date, depicts, images, copyright with, location, maps, and other metadata. And also join the DPLA's discussion about their metadata as well.
So thanks a lot, Giovanna. And now we still have about 12, 13 minutes for questions. I've seen in the chat there have been questions, but thanks to Asaf and Magnus, I think most of them have already been answered, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah, there was one question about best place to discuss Wiki Commons and properties. Like, is there a Telegram group or the like that you could tell us about?
Yes, there is a Telegram group. It's not so easy to find for some reason, the Commons Telegram group. I heard that there was this group and I had to actually ask a few people because I couldn't find a direct link for it. Okay. But I don't know if I can, of course that I can access my Telegram right now, but you would need a specific link that I could share maybe later with the rest of my slides, I guess.
Sure.
And you can.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
There was also one question.
Sorry.
Go
if
ahead.
you are interested in modeling discussions, you can go to the modeling page here for SDC, which is this one, in which you have all the topics for modeling and this properties table, which is very interesting as well. And the discussions pages for both of them are very active as well.
Great. There was also a question about search tips for Wikimedia that you can point us to, and someone put in the help with search from the Commons page, but I wondered if there were any other resources that you'd like to.
I don't understand exactly the question. Sorry.
Are there search tips, like a page with tips about how to search in Wikimedia?
Yes.
someone put in the Commons page that was help with search, but
I think the easier way would be to go into the SDC portal on Commons, and we have a few tabs here that actually teach you how to do that. So finding shared data on Commons, we have here how to search shared data on Commons, the digital representation of categories as I was showing, and then there are some different links if you want to search a little bit better for that, with some examples as well. And if you go to the GLAM and Culture tab here, you can also, I think it would be here, also a similar description as well on how to search.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is also another portal, because this is the Shared Data on Commons portal, in which you have a tab for GLAMs, but we also have a portal that is still under construction. This one on MetaWiki, not on Commons. So shared data for GLAM Wiki, and there are some information about this as well here. But this is still in construction, so it may, it may vary a little bit. So I think here on Check What is already on Wikimedia projects. There is also the search functions here. And I think it would help you as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that covers everything that came up in the chat that there might have been reason for you to add more, but we do welcome other questions if folks.
And thank you for those who helped me answering the questions. Thank you, Azaf, and other folks here. Oh, there is a question here. Anyone who has done data round tripping with Commons? I think there are some projects that are trying to do this right now. There is a Brazilian project that I was even part of previously, the Metropolitan Museum, who is trying to do this as well. And there is a video tutorial that goes very deeply in details about this. I will leave, the link here for data round tripping. And at the end here, we have some publications about this topic and the video for this tutorial here at the bottom, if you want to know more about this project and around, other round tripping projects as well. Oh, and thank you for sharing the Telegram group. So I will stop sharing, I guess.
So Giovanna, if I'm an institution uploading media files, is it advisable to add a maximum of structured data at the time of the upload? Or could I just wait and see what happens on the platform, among the community?
I think it will be good to actually do that as soon as you can, because at the moment that we are right now, we are still in the phase that we are discussing how to actually model everything. So it will be interesting to kind of do that, to actually go into this conversation as well and be part of the decision-making process of the modeling issues. And also because it's harder to, to enhance the metadata later. So it's better to do just at once. But of course, if you want to wait, is also good, because you can wait for OpenRefiner and it will be easier as well. But I someone who's doing this right now, I really much would like to, to have people doing this right now at once.
And how about all these institutions who have uploaded their images a while ago, like 3, 4, 5 years ago? Yeah. Would you advise them to kind of start getting on the structured data on Commons bandwagon now, or is it better to wait until all these discussions about modeling issues have settled a bit?
Well, it depends on what the person wants. If they want to be connected to the community and be part of this process, then I would advise them to do this now. But if they just want to, enhance their metadata for the content to be more useful and findable across Wikimedia, then just wait a little bit and do it later in an easier way, actually. It depends on the, how much the person wants to be active around the community or the institution. And it depends also, because right now we have, as I was saying, some tools that they do batch, but not batch in like a lot of files at once, just part of them. So if you want to do really big batch or set of files at once, you would have to use a bot. And this is not very easy for everyone and every institution. So if that's the case for you, if you don't have the technical capabilities to actually use and run a bot, then I would just advise you to wait a little bit more.
So Magnus is commenting like, I guess the modeling discussion hasn't started yet. Smiley face.
I guess the interesting thing about the modeling discussion is that they started to have a few discussions a few months ago, but then when there is like a very active, user doing a lot of files at once, that might like kind of direct a little bit how the modeling is going, just for the fact that it's, a lot of files are being updated and uploaded with this specific modeling that this specific user is doing, which is great. But then it kind of makes the discussion not be that active. But it depends on actually the kind of modeling that you are doing. Yeah.
It's a very pragmatic approach towards modeling.
Yeah.
There's a question from Rachel. Have there been any case studies where an institution saw more reuses of images after adding structured data?
Not yet, because this is a very new project. And also because the Shared Data on Commons project, we have that project in development since 2017, but the kind of projects that are connected to it, that is the Shared Data across Wikimedia and the image suggestions project, they are very new. And those are the projects that actually made the use of content, that generates the use of content across Wikimedia. So as it is new, and it's just like the suggestion image was just launched a few months ago, so we don't have yet a case to this for it. But we are actually in the process of doing that. We actually need first to have the institutions uploading the metadata for us to actually have these stats. And that's why, the Metropolitan and DPLA are, doing this right now. We are going to have very good stats for them in a while.
See, Magnus has just unmuted. Magnus, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just this describing a structured data. I was listening to some Russian person and he said, maybe we don't have words for describing art. You can describe so much in a painting. If you look at Europeana, you have a project where they try to use AI for finding out more about art. And I think we haven't seen the start. It's like Wikidata. It's a small playground where we describe that the person is born dead, but a person has much more in life. So this will explode or die.
Yes, yeah. Well, we hope that it will explode and actually, that it will create even better and, far more, that will reach more people, and that we will have even better development of this project as well, that will create new possibilities of media, search and research, and the way that we describe art. There is a conversation about IIIF as well, and some other possibilities that I think it will conduct this project in a very rich and useful pathway, but we still have to wait a little bit, because it's still, everything here is very still in development, so nothing is final.
And eventually we also will need more applications also outside the Wikiverse.
Exactly.
To really make use of all these new possibilities. Yeah, it's a 1:45, unless there are further questions. Oh yeah, there's further questions or comments. Oh yeah, Asaf is suggesting that you join the bandwagon now, and you will still be a structured commons hipster.
Exactly.
It's the time to join now.
Like Wikidata, you could imagine how cool it would be for you to say that you joined in the first year of Wikidata, which was not the case for me. So.
And then we have how the modeling is connected to existing work and metadata standards from the Visual Resources Association, CDOC, CRM, etc. Yes, that would be interesting indeed. Probably also the whole, like more and more institutions are probably having natively also structured data already. So it will be interesting also to see how that develops. Maybe Wikimedia Commons won't be the first place where they will store structured data about their media files. And obviously it will be interesting to see how these data can be matched.
It's just a question that came up about quality control, whether there's any tool to detect images with poor structured data.
Yes, there is one. I don't remember right now its name, and I'm not sure if it is connected to CD-ROM Commons, but I know there is one for Wikidata that detects when the item is not well structured, and I would have to check if it's working with SDC as well. But we have some quality tools around the community. Yes, that one. Yeah, Mismatch Finder. That one.
Yes, but that one is for Wikidata, I think. They don't think about pictures.
Yeah, I don't think so, yes.
So it's 10 years forward, I think.
Yeah. This would be a very interesting
it's also an ongoing question. What is poor data? Like on the depicts statements discussion, there's often this criticism, for example, of machine vision approaches that they generate too general tags, that are too general. It would be better to be more precise, more concrete.
Or biased data. The test they did on Wikimedia Commons, every Swedish priest was a Catholic priest because the test data was that religion, you see.
Was too Catholic.
That's why actually I think GLAMs are important, because usually they have more specific metadata that they can share more than AI. It's more, it is data that it was already fixed and created. So that's why it's important for us to have the information coming from the institutions themselves in that aspect, I guess. I think we have questions from myself.
I just wanted to add that about data quality, the tool that exists for Wikidata is showing the way. Just like that tool, a tool could be made, could be created, and even if you think, well, I couldn't create that tool, you could help create the specification for that tool. You could help design what that tool should check. and what logic it should employ. And you as owners of data, of subject matter, can be very instrumental in helping the programmers who will build the tool make the right checks. So, you know, don't take the lack of a tool at the moment as meaning, well, we cannot ever know the quality of the data. Again, this is a young environment, and many of the tools that will become classics have not yet been built, but they will be.
Exactly. And this is the Wikimedia movement, so you can actually join this, you know, that's the coolest part about it.
Oh,
Then
sorry,
can...
my camera
Yeah,
was closed. I didn't mean to. Yeah.
One aspect, I think, is if we could be the first and set the standard, we will win a lot. That's my feeling. I was connecting with Europeana, and then they used Wikidata queue numbers as same as, and life was so easy. And if we could say this is the way you describe pictures and so on, it's a big advantage to be the first and set standard.
Yeah.
So keep on.
Yeah. Yes, and that's why we actually need more, you know, people and institutions from different contexts to actually join this conversation, because different institutions from different regions, countries, contexts, they have different metadata necessities. Then sometimes we don't at first understand or see as needed, and might create a problem afterwards. So that's why it's always good to have more voices being involved in this conversation as well.
So that's the final statement, I guess.
Yeah.
Giovanna, thanks a lot for sharing your insights and your know-how about structured commons. Thanks a lot for all those of you who have actively participated. Thanks also to those of you who have been new to Wikimedia Commons. And I hope this has given you some insights and some ideas also how to join the movement. And we'll be happy to see you around.
Perhaps we should also plug the Wikidata tutorial that's coming up next at 1:15 Eastern time, in case this structured data conversation on Wikimedia Commons has whetted your appetite and you're new to the Wikidata community. That is an introductory tutorial that's taking place next. And there's also continued conversation ongoing on the conference Slack channel. So if you have continued conversation or want to continue mulling these things over, we can move the conversation over there.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Giovanna. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.